Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Angela Belso, President of Songcatchers Board of Directors. On behalf of the board and all of us at Songcatchers, welcome to the 20th Annual Composers of the Future concert. For 20 years, we have been collaborating with Barry Charles Hoffman, founder and artistic director of the Symphony of Westchester, and John Deek, the very young composer's advocate of the New York Philharmonic. This concert is always a highlight of our year, showcasing the talents of our after-school music program students and listening to the brilliant musicians of the Symphony of Westchester is an honor and a delight. This year's composers are a wonderful group of talented and motivated students who work hard to excel with their instrument and are willing to learn new skills. We are in for an amazing program today. And now please welcome Barry Charles Hoffman, founder and artistic director of the Symphony of Westchester.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this wonderful concert ahead of us. I thank you, Angela, for the introduction. I'd like to just talk for a minute about the history of the program and our association with Songcatchers. So about 23 years ago, the Symphony of Westchester was giving an outdoor concert at Hudson Park in New Rochelle. And after the concert, a woman came up to us, turned out to be our beloved sister Beth, and she introduced herself, and she said it would be great if you could have a couple of musicians come over and play for the children. I said, oh, okay, sure. So I followed up, and then actually, rather than that, we collaborated on a number of pieces. We had some talented grown-up composers who wrote pieces for the orchestra and for the Songcatcher children and for the teachers. One of them was called Peanut Butter and Jelly. And we performed that at St. Gabriel's Church. And then we did a few other concerts, and I had an idea. I said, hey, why don't we, I was talking to myself, I said, why don't we have a program where we could have the children write pieces and we'll perform them, the Symphony of Westchester Professional Orchestra. And Sister Beth loved the idea. And then I think at this time I was looking for somebody, and I had heard about the wonderful work that John Deek had already been doing with children in New York. I think at that time we also collaborated with Glenn Dictor, who was the concertmaster of the New York Philharmonic, and I believe he recommended John. And then we started the program. And after many years and a number of teacher mentors over the years, here we are. And I calculated that we have made this program available with our collaboration with Songcatchers to probably close to 450 children over the many years that we've been doing it. And I'm very proud of that. And I want to thank all of the musicians who made this possible. I certainly would have felt challenged. I was a little disappointed I didn't get to conduct them, but I'm very proud to hear their excellent musicianship and what's coming forward today and all the pieces. I'd like to thank Angela, Kathleen, John, and Jessica. Jessica Marla, the mentor teacher for this last few years, and I believe she's doing a wonderful job with the children. And before I close and turn this over to Kathleen, I want to speak to all the children who participated, and all of you should be so proud of yourselves, what you've created, not just in this sense of the music, but how you've developed and how you express yourself in such a positive way that you can go forward as you get older and develop many other interests, that if you put your mind to something, you can succeed with it. And I want to acknowledge the children's parents as well for their support. So everybody enjoy the beautiful concert ahead of us. And I'd like to now turn the program off to Kathleen McEntee Lawler. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming today.
Thank you, Barry. We're so thrilled and grateful to continue our partnership with the Symphony of Westchester and with John Deek in this wonderful Composers of the Future program. Over the last 20 years, I have heard over 200 original Songcatcher student compositions, and each year, our children continue to impress me with the talent, creativity, and imagination that is heard in their music. This year's composers class is no exception. These hardworking young students have all created unique pieces containing such wonderful music. I know you will be amazed by what you will soon hear. So now I'd like to introduce J.L. Marler, professional composer, instructor, and mentor, who really made this virtual composers program happen this year. JL worked tirelessly with these children, not only to teach them about orchestration and composition techniques and digital music software, but also encourage them to express the music within themselves. Using the children's own notated scores and recordings by the Symphony of Westchester musicians, JL also created the digital performances that you will hear this afternoon. She will introduce each composer and their music, and then you'll hear from the composers themselves. Take it away, JL.
Hi everyone, my name is JL Marler. I'm a teaching artist for the New York Philharmonic, and I am so pleased to be here on this beautiful spring day to continue this incredible partnership between Songcatchers, the Symphony of Westchester, and John Deek, the founder of the Very Young Composers program at the New York Philharmonic. Today, we are thrilled to celebrate the 20th anniversary of this program, and I have been the instructor and composition mentor to the students over the past few months. We've had an incredible past semester learning how to express ourselves through composition, and I've really treasured these past few months working with these brilliant young composers. I've been so humbled to see the confidence and artistry with which each of our students have approached this gigantic project. Even in the midst of this coronavirus pandemic, I've been astounded by their creative ingenuity and how they've all risen to the occasion of writing for this incredible symphony orchestra. I am so thrilled and so excited to present our students' compositions, but before we get started, I have to put on my teacher hat and go on over a bit of business. Firstly, if you could make sure that you have your Zoom set to speaker view. This will make sure that you can see the students' pieces in their full glory. You can do this by clicking in the upper right-hand corner. I'll point up here, upper right-hand corner where it says view, and make sure you have it set to speaker or gallery view. The second bit of business is I think it's really, really great that we have such an incredible audience here today. It looks like we have about 50 or 60 people here, so I want to make sure that our students get the full effect of being in front of an audience for their premieres. So I want to make sure that we all are able to applaud heartily. So we're going to practice this a little bit. I want you to applaud as loud as you possibly can without bothering your neighbors, by taking yourself off mute and clapping. And we're gonna do this on the count of 3. So I want you to all just try with me. We'll try clapping. Is everyone set to clap? Just give me a thumbs up when you are ready to start clapping. All right, I want everyone to turn off or turn on their mics.
Okay.
And give me a good applause. Yay! Yay! All right, so when the students' pieces are finished, I want you to applaud as heartily as you would in the concert room. And then afterwards, turn your mic on mute again. You guys did such a great job. I have the biggest confidence that you all will do great. And then I also want everyone to know that we have an excellent chat feature here. So if you want to provide some compliments to the students' work or applause, you may do so in the chat down below. And now, and without further ado, I want to present this year's Composers of the Future. The first piece is by Olivia McKenna, Song of a Nemophilist. All right, let's hear the claps. Congratulations, Olivia. Bravo. What a beautiful piece. I love this wonderful springtime feel. What a great piece to begin on such a beautiful spring Sunday. Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired this piece?
Um, One thing that inspired me was the forest, which is where I got the name from. The Nemophilist is a person who has a fondness or love for the forest, so that was a major part of writing the piece.
I can really hear the forest in it. I can hear like the beautiful grandness of being outside and the gentle moments. I can even hear the sun, I feel like. I also thought it was very interesting that you used a different time signature. You wrote this piece in 7/8. And I think it really brings out the surprise and joy of nature. Could you talk a little bit about maybe what was fun about writing in this different time signature?
Yeah, so I chose 7/8 because I've never heard or performed in 7/8, so I thought it'd be very nice to hear a song in 7/8.
Yeah, you did an incredible job. It's really a beautiful piece. John,
Well,
do you have anything you want to say?
Olivia, yeah, I was so impressed that it wasn't just an arbitrary 7/8. It really connected well because your theme jumps da da dee da. It jumps around. It's not a just a step by step melody. It gives us a sense of size and development. Also, you jumped same theme from one section of the orchestra to another, which is a very professional thing to do the way you did it. So congrats.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Olivia, for your beautiful piece. Can we get another round of applause for Olivia? All right, thank you so much, Olivia. Next, we have Soleil Ibarra with Lost in Space. Thank you so much, Soleil. What a beautiful piece. I love how you began with this short, uh, rhythmic and melodic figure that traveled through the different instruments and then erupted into this beautiful texture that was a little dissonant and then got very joyful and happy at the end. It was really a beautiful example of orchestration. Soleil, can you tell me a little bit about what inspired this piece for you?
Um, I always, I'm, I really like space.
That's okay. Soleil, if you want to type your responses in the chat, I'm happy to read them out loud. Soleil is having a bit of technical difficulties, as I'm sure we all have gotten used to in this Zoom time, but I will be happy to read your responses if you want to tell us what inspired you. What I did hear Soleil say was that she was inspired by space. Oh, great, in the comments. So I really like how space is vast and amazing, and my piece is representing the lost world out there. Soleil, I think you conveyed this beautifully. There's so many moments of sort of otherworldly dissonance, which means the notes clash a little bit, that bring out this feeling of the vastness and mystery of space. But at the end, you return to this beautiful, jubilant chord that makes us really feel like we're lost in space, but then we're found. And I think it's really beautiful. John, do you have anything you want to say about this piece?
Soleil, have a feel of strength in all this. You may be lost, but you're strong. And I go along with all the comments so far. Um, and as a string player, I really enjoyed your writing for the viola. Were you thinking very well of that? I mean, that's idiomatically, which means you wrote music that really sounded great in the viola and not on just any old instrument. So your orchestra, also some of the horn solos. Did you hear a horn player come to the class and play?
So we did have horn players come into the class and we talked about the different textures of the horn and what is good writing for the horn. And I feel like Soleil really listened and really took that into consideration. She said in the chat, I really wanted some of the details to stand out, so I made a few solos for the instruments. I think that comes across beautifully. And
Yeah,
the few solo moments we really cherish. They're beautiful and expertly executed.
wonderful.
Wonderful piece, Soleil. Congratulations. All right,
Yeah,
one
yeah.
last round of applause for Soleil.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Next, we have composer Daniel Goncalves with his piece Bitter Then Sweet. All right, let's give a round of applause for Daniel. Bravo. What I really just love the title and it says so much about the piece, bitter than sweet. We hear this melody at the beginning that to me is very warm but a little sad or nostalgic. And then we move into this fun, exciting, sweet phase. Um, I think your piece was expertly orchestrated. And I want to hear a little bit more about what inspired this piece for you.
Well, actually, I was just playing around in the music writing software, and I got to this part in the beginning, which was really good but sounded sad. So then I thought, well, we're in a sad time, so why don't I write a song that sounds sad but gets better and better? And so that's kind of what inspired this song, I guess.
I love that. It's almost like you were hoping for the future that it would get better and things would turn into sweetness, which I feel like we're feeling now and the as spring's coming along. It really shows that you had this idea of a journey from bitterness, from difficulty, or a little bit of sadness to sweetness. I can hear that journey musically, and when you hear if you notice, Daniel's piece begins and ends with a similar musical idea. And I love how that kind of signals like a transition back to reimagining this bitter or sad phase as something we can be nostalgic about and have a little bit more sweetness towards. John, would you like to say
Yeah,
anything?
no,
Yeah.
Daniel, I have to ask you, I mean, for heaven's sake, is that the first piece that you've written like for orchestra, or were you with us last year?
That is the first piece I've ever written.
Oh, well, that's truly amazing because there's so many wonderful details in it. And as JL said, I agree. The journey that you were able to take, that's what a composer does. The composer takes us from here to there through feelings. And boy, you did that and so expertly. So you got to continue composing.
Thank you.
Sorry. This class traditionally has a lot of students who've never composed before, but I think that Daniel really shows that you can have not composed before and create something that is absolutely brilliant and expertly composed and orchestrated. It was a fabulous piece with so many interesting contrasting segments. Really, really expertly and beautifully done, Daniel. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Dayanara Rosa with her piece Luna.
Woo!
Wow.
Bravo, Dayanara. I love about your piece is we start off feeling a mood. Instead of introducing a melody, you start off by painting a mood with the different instruments in the orchestra. So I have to hear from you, what inspired this beautifully moody piece?
Well, what inspired this piece was that I would like be sleep, like I would be on my bed laying down, and I would like see the moon right outside my window, and Luna actually in Spanish means moon. So I just kind of thought of the feeling of when you're like scared of the dark. So that's how it starts off.
Wow, I can really feel that. There's the opening chords that you lay down, the notes that you layer on top of each other just create a feeling of uncertainty or a little bit of fear, a little bit of mystery. And I feel like that idea of being scared at night and being comforted by the moon really is apparent. I also love the ending of your piece, how it fades out with this beautiful oboe solo and it just kind of fades into nothingness. It's beautiful. Um, John, do you have anything you'd like
It's,
to say?
you know, I agree that that mood that you create, Diana, is quite extraordinary, really, because it continues throughout the piece, and that, to me, expresses the idea of the moon, the la luna, as you are expressing. Also, how did you think? I mean, right away, this is a first orchestral piece you've written, right?
No, it's my second one actually.
Ah, second. Well, boy, you have learned so quickly. What grade are you in, if I could ask?
Eighth.
Eighth grade already, and you're writing music like a college graduate almost. The the instruments speaking to each other. It's often said that a musical composition is like a conversation within itself, and you've done that exquisitely. So I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
You've done a really beautiful job in creating such a striking mood in your piece. Um, Fantastic orchestration skills, fantastic compositional skills. You should be very proud of yourself. Can we give one last round of applause for Dayanara? Thank you so much. Next, we have composer Yuan Lim. Congratulations, Yuan. Wow. What an incredible ride you took us on. I feel like this piece has so much depth and character. There's so many different elements going on, and I think what you've really tapped into is this idea of like an unraveling or a journey in your music. I can hear all the individual parts and how they come together, and it's really masterfully done. Yuan, what inspired this piece for you?
Quarantine, I've been playing a lot of video games. And when I did composers, I thought of doing like a character from a video game I've played. And I wanted to feel like the lower notes of like the bass would be like a boss battle or just a regular battle. And the ending was, I guess, like him winning or passing the level. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I really hear that. I think that being inspired by video games is a really great way to get such a clear idea in your head of this journey that maybe the hero is going on. And I can really hear it. There's moments of fear, there's moments of joy. There you can absolutely hear that boss, the main villain character in the bass. And in the comments, I see that there was a comment that it sounds like movie music. And I think you've done an expert job in creating this feeling of a character going on a journey. It's really masterfully done. John, would you like
Yeah,
to?
it is masterfully done, and I especially appreciate the characterization of the instruments. You've got the horns and the upper strings, and the bass. Of course, I love the bass solos. Very, very sort of the way you wrote, very gnarly. I can imagine some kind of gnome as a villain, and that's that is one of the main things we talked about, taking you from here to there, which you've done, and also characterization of the instruments. They're not just something that you press a button, where they're living breathing instruments that are incredibly complex. And you guys all have exemplified that. You're writing for instruments almost as if they were people.
Yeah. Yuan, really masterful job, and it's just a treat to see you composing so like passionately and confidently. You've really created a masterful piece here. So let's give one last round of applause for Yuan. Congratulations. Yay. All right, the next composer we have is Daniela Flores with a Yay. Congratulations, Daniela. What a beautiful piece. And what I love about this piece, as so many of the other pieces that I've heard today, is that each of the instruments really has their own unique character. Um, I love your piece is titled A Walk in the Park, and I can really hear the different elements of being outside, being in beautiful nature. Between the beautiful string lines to the warm and rich horn parts. You've done a masterful job in creating this feeling of being outside. Can you tell me what inspired this piece?
So over quarantine, my family and my friends and I, we would always usually go to the park as much as we could to just try to, get a sense of feeling normal, even though like it's been a really rough year. So I just was thinking of how we would always like, play in the park and, look at all the trees and enjoy just being outside.
I can feel it. Listening to this piece is like walking outside for me. It's warm, it's inviting, it's beautiful. And I actually want to bring up some of the comments in the chat. The opening French horns set the mood for a nice, refreshing walk in the park. What a beautiful choice to begin with horns. It's sort of horns, especially in the way that you have written that part. It is very pastoral, very, it like reminds me of people on horseback. So I really hear this woods or park outside. And then also people in the chat are saying that they love the resolution at the end, and I can imagine walking footsteps on every downbeat. It's really beautifully done how you've created this park scene for us. Um, Beautiful job,
Yeah,
John.
see, Daniela, this this is what composers do, and great artists, writers, and dancers. What great composers do is create a mood that brings out something bigger than what it was. It's not just a walk in the park. It has a strength and a kind of almost majesty. I'm going to use the word of, of what a walk in the park can do, way beyond just seeing various things. So it has a feeling of the human spirit in there, and all the orchestration details that you did create that feeling. So I'm very impressed, and I want to hear this piece and all these pieces again and again. I think they're going to be on my playlist.
Thank you.
Yes, congratulations. This was really an incredible piece, Daniela. You should be very proud. Thank you. One last round of applause. All right, next we have composer Andres Flores with Shining Armor. Wow, beautiful. I love that piece. What I think you've done is created a feeling of like majesty and honor in this piece, with starting with such like a beautiful, there's a beautiful oboe part, beautiful strings part, and then we have this really rich and hearty bass line throughout the piece that then gets a solo moment. I think you've done a great job of kind of trading off ideas amongst the members of the orchestra. Um, because Andres has a bit of a tricky Wi-Fi connection, I'm going to read his responses to my questions about what inspired this piece. Andres says he was inspired by the actions in Knights in Shining Armor, a fast-paced piece that would be perfectly suited for that. And what was fun about composing was feeling like you created something that no one else has created before. Yeah, I think that's a really great idea for a piece, is like this heroic knight character, and your piece does take on the role of a character. You know, I can almost see like a knight in shining armor riding a horse in the first few measures, and then, you know, slaying a dragon when that really hearty bass line comes in. It's just a completely masterful piece. Yeah, he also said, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, John, do you have
Oh,
anything?
yeah, the contrasts were amazing, Andres, and I love the whole piece. Were you thinking of the bass part as being some kind of dragon or monster or um, what all?
That might have been my interpretation, but I think that's
No,
part of the
no,
fun of music.
it had a feeling of that. Also, your use of special rhythmic motives. In other words, some kids, when they first start on the computer, especially, they start typing in quarter notes, dot, 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 dot. And you absolutely go beyond that. You have a rhythmic flow that is much more like speaking or singing
Yes.
rather than mathematical. You got it?
Yeah, there's a really interesting and complex rhythmic quality to actually all of the parts, but they come together so beautifully. It's almost like rhythmic counterpoint is what you're doing, which is like a counter melody. Um, oh, from Andres, it says like the setting is a castle with knights guarding and dragons flying. I can totally hear that. You really created this like heroic feeling. Um, yeah, and from the comments, like you, your contrast between little rounds and the strong unisons, beautifully done. It reveals the contrast of glimmering of the sun off of the armor. Good job. Yes, I completely agree. This is,
Right.
yes, wonderful piece, Andres. Can we get one last round of applause? Bravo. Well done. The next composer we have is Aviella Lim with Let It Flow.
Oh my gosh.
Wow, beautiful piece.
What? Yeah, you did it.
Wow. Aviela, congratulations. What a beautiful piece. I think yesterday when we talked a little bit, one of the things that really blew me away was that this piece had this suspense that was ever flowing. It was almost like you were slowly unraveling the piece. It really just flowed beautifully, and it was almost like transitions were always absolutely beautifully done. Aviela, could you say a few words about what inspired the music?
I didn't really have a specific inspiration behind my piece. I kind of just composed it looking if it sounded good to my ears and if the parts of the instrument sounded good together. Um, as said by like some other fellow composers, I just kind of played around with the notes.
And I think that's such a great way of approaching composition. I think sometimes composing can feel a little bit scary, but what you really captured is this like element of play that you can do when you are a composer. You can play around with these different parts. You can play around with how a violin might sound with a viola or might sound with a cello or even a French horn. And I feel like you masterfully arranged this piece by trying out different arrangements and seeing what works. So as I can imagine, this piece, although it's a minute and a half long, so many hours went into thinking about the different pairings and different melodies that you were going to slowly reveal throughout the piece. I think
Yeah,
you did a
that's
masterful job.
that's true, JL. The decisions, so many details. You say, a composer, and I want people who are not musicians, if they're listening, to know the fact that in these pieces, even in these brief pieces, thousand and perhaps more than several thousands of decisions have to be made. Each note has to be decided on with the pitch, the range, the instrument, the attack, the articulation. All those things have to be decided by the composer, and it does take a lot of time. When I first founded this program, I was thinking, oh my gosh, how could kids make all these complex decisions? One thing that I want to point out, Aviela, that you have besides a horizontal, beautiful melodic flow between the instruments, you have a vertical sense of harmony. And again, people, these kids may not know the technical names of the chords that they are using, which are in many cases complex, not just a major triad. They're doing complex chords, which are semi-dissonant, resolved, sometimes not resolved. This is all done by feeling and instinct. That's the way that this whole program works. Not by telling you that this or that chord is exactly named dominant minor ninth or whatever. They just use it. Thank you.
Yeah, you did a beautiful job arranging this whole piece. I actually remember looking at the score when you submitted it and saying like, wow. Like, looking at the harmony vertically and looking at it and on paper, and I said, wow, this is really interesting. Like the textures are very strong here. And I think you using this idea of playing around to see what works, you found some incredible harmonies. Really fabulous job, Aviela. Congratulations. Yeah, let's give one last round of applause.
Wow.
Thank you. Wow. Next up, we have Uri Lopez Ibarra with Oblivion. Wow. I love how this piece ends with such suspense. The whole piece, what you've curated is a feeling and a mood. You've created texture in your orchestration, and we can really hear like it feels very mysterious and suspenseful to me, but also beautiful and lovely. Um, Uri, can you tell me a little bit about what inspired this piece?
This piece wasn't exactly inspired by anything. I just kind of experimented with the notes, and if it sounded good, I would leave it, and if it didn't, I like changed it up a bit.
Yeah, I think that we've touched on this a few times now, is that for a lot of us, we weren't inspired by something, we had an inspiration and then we wrote the piece. Oftentimes, we have to start writing the piece because we have a deadline. And in writing that piece, we get inspired by ourselves, which I think is really powerful and exciting, is that instead of being inspired by something concrete, we're inspired by our own music making. And I think that this piece fits so cohesively. It's such a beautiful texture and such a beautiful mood, because you were playing around, because you were being kind of constantly inspired by yourself. I love the piece, and I also love the name. I think that the name captures this feeling of mystery and suspense, but also of beauty and the majesty in mystery. Beautiful piece, John.
Yeah. No, you really touched on a very important part of this process, JL, that Uri may have not compose this piece if he didn't have a deadline and a performance happening. And so you see, and I'm talking to the public now, you see how important it is to give an opportunity for these very young composers to have their pieces played. I know myself as a professional composer, it helps so much to have a deadline, a performance ready, musicians who are supportive of your work. Um, and this piece came to being as a treasure, as a gift, because uh, we provided a framework for it. Barry Hoffman, of course, provided the framework of the Symphony of Westchester. But you're right, that was extraordinary. I could go on and on about this piece because it really has a texture that of itself that deserves hearing many, many, many times because you
Yeah.
hear something new in it every time.
Yeah, it was a beautiful piece. And I also want to just commend all of the composers for writing such compelling pieces that only last a minute. It's a minute or so. And I find that it's very, very hard to write well in such a short amount of time, but they all created such different and extraordinary pieces. I think it really speaks to the talent in this room. All right, thank you so much, Uri. One last round of applause. Congratulations. Yay. Our last composer for this beautiful afternoon is Linda Sanchez with Blue Butterfly. beautiful and jubilant and like joyous and warm piece to end our concert. What I love about this piece is it unfolds so cleanly and beautifully. It's warm, it's rich. Um, it makes me smile. It makes me feel very happy and good. Um, Linda, could you say a little bit about what inspired this piece?
Well, I really didn't have a specific inspiration. I think I just let my heart do all the work since I didn't want to work with any worries or any problems. I think I just worked really calmly, and I think I got to the point where I really liked it.
Yeah, I think we've spoken about this before that so much of composition is, a lot of it has to do with our brains and writing down what's in our brains and thinking logically. But a lot of it actually includes our hearts and what emotions we want to express and where our hearts are leading us. And I think that this piece is very heart driven. I can hear it in the melody. It's warm, it's inviting, it's beautiful and tender. And I think it shows that you led this piece, you wrote this piece using your heart. Um, Beautifully done.
Yeah,
John.
it has a real majesty about it. Again, first time I heard it even, um, I really thought, wow, most people would do a butterfly with little tiny little motives and like that. But you made a majesty out of this magnificent being, this butterfly. I could imagine it taking on all kinds of even human characteristics, but just of itself. Um, and again, your harmonies and your chords. I want to congratulate you and all the composers. I'm just astonished, and I'm going to be listening to this group again and again, and passing this around to our other affiliates so that they know how people of Westchester and New Rochelle and that area will be really should be celebrated.
Yeah, incredible job, Linda. This is a beautiful piece
Thank
with a
you.
beautiful story. Um, all right, can we give one last round of applause for Linda, and then we'll get into our last applause. But thank you so much, Linda. Beautiful job. Congratulations.
Yay, bravo, bravo.
Bravo. And um, now I want to take a moment to thank every single composer that we heard today. Let's give them all a round of applause. What an amazing concert with such amazing pieces. Congratulations, everyone. Bravo to everyone. Now, this project was a huge undertaking for a lot of us. We all worked very hard to get to this concert, but this wouldn't be possible without John Deek, who is a mentor to the Composers of the Future program and founder of the Very Young Composers program at the New York Philharmonic. John, do you have a few words to say about the program?
Well, yes, as I've said already, I think that not only this program has been um, exquisite, to put it mildly, but also again, we are going to pass this around, if it's all right with you, your composers, that we have representatives in 15 foreign countries and cities across the U.S. and it would be wonderful if, number one, you could all um, apply for the bridge program next year. We're sort of in the middle of it now, so it's too late for this year, but for next year, which might be a hybrid or live, we don't know yet. But please apply for that. JL has made a very generous offer to help with some of the transportation. And secondly, keep on composing yourself. It's easy to say, and as I say, it's much easier to compose when there's a deadline and a performance happening. But with what we call musical postcards international or musical postcards express, you can exchange ideas with kids your age in all these foreign countries, and you can see, as my delight, that a kid in Korea or in Brazil or in Finland or in Palestine or Israel, they compose enough differently. And you guys will see that your your compositions do have what some people would call an American accent, just as I'm speaking now. I don't speak in foreign accent. I speak in an American way. And it's just so delightful to hear those different things. JL and I and Jessica Mays, who is our manager, we'll give you her email, can set you up if you want to write a musical postcard, either on this scale or with found objects. It doesn't have to be a symphonic expression. You can do something that you could, using your voice and sounds that you would find in your kitchen. So anyway, you must please keep composing. There's way too much brilliant, not just talent, but brilliant insight. Thank you, thank you, thank you, all of you.
All so much.
Thank you, John. Thank you for your involvement in this program over the past 20 years, for your encouragement and for introducing us to talented composers like JL, who have worked with our students, teaching them the art of composing their own original music. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank Barry Charles Hoffman and all the musicians of the Symphony of Westchester who elevate this program to a professional performance each year. It is so exciting for our students to have their works performed by a real symphony. Thank you for that. Individual musicians from the symphony also worked with the students during their classes, demonstrating their instruments and showing our students the range of sounds they can make. So thank you for giving up your time to do that, working with our students directly. And of course, a huge thanks goes to JL, our composer extraordinaire. I think we all need to give her a round of applause.
You, bravo, bravo. You the best. Yeah, baby.
JL's own talent and teaching skills and patience and kindness made the classes enjoyable for our students and inspired them to do their best and to have fun with the music. So thank you, JL. Thank you too to Ming Augustine, our office manager at Songcatchers, who hosted the Zoom classes each week and coordinated all the little details. And to Sheila Monahan, a longtime Songcatchers volunteer and a professional graphic designer who designed all the slides that we use today. Thank you, Sheila. Finally, thanks again to our composers and to each and every one of you who have joined us for this presentation. We count on your encouragement and support to fulfill our mission of reaching for peace through music and making music lessons affordable and accessible to all children in the Lower Westchester area. We rely too on government, corporate, private, and other nonprofit supporters like Arts Westchester for their financial backing and partnership. This past year especially has brought all of us closer together, helping each other to get through the pandemic so that we could continue serving our communities. If you would like to make a donation to Songcatchers or the Symphony of Westchester, you can click on the logos on the side of your screen or go to our websites. This afternoon's concert has now officially come to an end. If you would like to stay on for a few minutes to ask questions of the composers or one of us, please unmute yourself and ask away. Thank you and have a great evening.
Bravo, bravo. A los niños. Wow.
If anybody has a question, please feel free to unmute yourself.
You can also take questions from the chat if anyone wants to type their response. I'll read it out loud. have a question. For the composers, does anyone feel like they want to compose again?
You did a great job.
Keep writing?
It's amazing.
Who wants to come keep writing?
Beautiful picture.
Yeah.
Good, good. Good. Yay, that makes me so happy. This year we actually introduced the idea of using computer software to notate our pieces. And I hope that you all continue to compose using this software because you can do it from your bedroom, from your office, or even from school. You can compose just from your computer. And I hope you all continue to compose.
Yeah.
J.L. Marmor.
So John wrote in the chat, thanks to all the New York Philharmonic and our teaching artists. I understand that Charlie Griffin, the first teaching artist that we had, the first composer we had, was on this call for a while. So thank you, Charlie, for being here.
Charlie, thank you. Yeah, he was great. Yeah, we miss him. No. Yeah, and thank you to Barry and all of the Songcatchers staff, because this was people have to be paid. They have to pay their rent, and that wouldn't happen without you guys. So I appreciate the fundraising efforts that were made to make this possible, and I hope all the students understand that and can express their gratitude in any way they can. I would say a small donation, even if it's only $5 or $10 that you or your family can afford, would show a certain level of support for this project. And since you guys are able and obviously have deep intellect, and this was the whole point of the Very Young Composers at the start, that kids your age have a deep intellect, that you can understand what it takes organizationally to make this all happen. And you will hopefully grow up and express. If you don't become composers, what I experience is mostly kids who have taken this class for at least 1 or 2 years tend to become leaders. And you guys have all developed leadership here. Composers are nothing if not leaders. You're telling all these instruments what to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's thrilling.
Thank you, John. Any other questions or comments?
Mm-hmm.
I see some familiar faces from other states. Thank you for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
The one good thing about being virtual is that people from all over the world could join, and you don't have to be located right here in New Rochelle. So thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All righty then, if no more questions, I think that we will end the presentation now. So thank you composers, thank you Jess, Barry, John, Kathleen, Ming, Sheila, everybody that had anything to do with this. Thank you for being here with us today.
Wow.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you. And have a great afternoon and evening.
Great. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good job, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bravo, composers.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Congratulations,
Bye.
everyone. You should be very proud.
Yep.
Bravo.